Florida's Women in Energy Leadership Forum was launched to inform, inspire, motivate diverse talent to join the energy workforce by intentional recognition of current female energy leaders who contribute to growing Florida's economy and the purposeful sharing of their professional journeys. We are creating opportunity. Join me each week as we meet new leaders in energy and listen to their important roles in an industry that is vital to the country's future. Hello there. I'm with Mariela Perez today, and welcome to this week's Florida's Women in Energy Leadership Forum. Mariela, I am so excited to be talking to you today for a number of reasons. You are unique in terms of your career choice with Duke Energy. I should start by saying you are with Duke Energy, who thank you again for sponsoring this week's show, Duke Energy. Proud supporter of the forum and very, very diverse in employee experience, right? Workforce talent. And you're one of those examples. Mariela, introduce yourself.
So first of all, thank you for having me. My name is Mariela Perez. I've been with Duke Energy a little bit over 20 years. I'm currently the General Manager of Transformation for Customer Experience and Services, and I am very proud to be part of this company and this industry and having the benefit of a long, diverse, and exciting career in this industry.
Thank you, Mariela. And so where I want to start is not with your current position. Here's a little bit about what makes your experience unique. Right before you started this position a few months ago, you led Duke Energy's fleet department. So what does that mean, Mariela? I know how significant that is and what it means, but to our audience and listeners, why would that be a big deal?
So the fleet organization actually, it's an organization that supports the entire Duke Energy enterprise, all business units, all jurisdictions, and we are responsible for the maintenance, acquisition, basically the entire life cycle for the vehicle and construction equipment, bucket trucks, basically all of the mobile equipment for the entire corporation. Whether it is the things that are used by a distribution organization, the bucket trucks that we're all familiar with, including construction equipment that are used in our generation facilities. The organization is responsible for about 14,000 pieces of equipment. And the employees, we have about 350 employees in that organization that are basically located in about 60 different locations.
And Mariela, I'm going to take a guess that there aren't very many people in that line of work that look like you.
Not many at all. Not many at all.
So how, why, when?
So I think it was a combination of timing and where I was in my career. So at the time, I was the Director of Human Performance, which is an organization that works primarily on the corrective action programs, incidents, investigations. And I was doing that for all of Duke Energy Enterprise. But in doing that, I got to work very closely with operations. And over time, I really developed this desire to be part of operations versus supporting operations. And there was an opportunity. The general manager position for fleet services became vacant. At the time, there was also another general manager position that was more aligned with my experience, and I interviewed for both. And the vice president asked me, which one do you prefer? And I jumped in. I immediately said the fleet services opportunity. It came as a surprise because when you looked at my background, the other position would have been a more direct fit. I was going from an organization overseeing professionals to an organization that had everything, including it's about 80% craft employees, so totally different to everything that I had done. But that's exactly why I wanted that opportunity.
Did you get the "Are you sure?" question, or let me explain what this role would make you do? Did you get that "Are you crazy?" look?
I got the "Are you crazy?" look. Do you want to think about it?
Right.
I also had the benefit that the hiring manager, the vice president for fleet services, was the same vice president that was responsible for human performance. So we had a relationship, we knew each other. So I think in that sense, that's why I said that it was a combination of timing and where I was in my career.
He knew you could do it. He knew you could do it.
Yes.
But most importantly, and we talk about this on the show a lot, most importantly, you knew you could do it. And, we always hear the examples of women who don't necessarily say yes to a position that's offered to them because they don't think they're qualified. But you knew you could rise to that challenge. What gives you that confidence, that faith in your ability?
So looking back at it, I think it's because up to that point, I have held a variety of positions, mainly on the support side versus directly in operations. But I had supported operations in different capacities in finance, in continuous improvement, in human performance. So I felt that I was very familiar with operations, but I also knew I didn't have the experience. So I knew that going into that role, it was important to go into the role with confidence in my ability, but also recognizing that I didn't have the experience and making sure that I would embrace and leverage the subject matter experts within the organization that had that experience.
And did that help you with your team? More often than not, when we say to those yes to those roles, we are immediately working with a team that may know more on the substance than we do. And in that example, perhaps
Absolutely.
do more than you did. And so, how did you approach that as an opportunity?
So my team at the time, so just to put it in perspective, I went from a total organization of 14 professionals to 350. I went from supervising individual contributors only to supervising various levels of leadership. And I went from a field that I was an expert and I knew a lot about to something that I didn't. So I think the big thing for me was applying what I knew, applying the skills I brought to the table. But before doing anything, I really took the time to listen, to learn, to build relationships, to really embrace that team and establishing that trust and taking the time to not only learn the operations, but learn them as individuals and as a leadership team. So once I got to the point that I wanted to make changes, it was something that we did together versus something that I was doing to them. So I think the important thing is, especially when you walk into a role that pretty much everybody has been there for a long time, that you have a lot of subject matter expertise, is really embracing and valuing that subject matter expertise that is so badly needed. So I think listening and really focusing on building relationships first is what helped me in that position and for the entire 4 years that I was in that role.
So, Mariella, as you know, we take questions from viewers, and we've got our first one. This viewer wants to know how long it took for you to earn their trust.
I would say to truly earn their trust, it probably took about 6 months to a year. And the reason that I use a range is because I had 7 direct reports and I had a range of very experienced to not as experienced. So I think it varied a little bit depending on who the individual was, but it does take time. I have learned that respect and trust is not something that you can demand.
Right.
Or something that comes with positional power. It's something that needs to be earned. And we need to be willing to invest the time to earn that respect and to earn that trust.
So, we're going to talk about your current position and get you to give some advice to our college students who may be listening today. But I read an interview that I think a written interview that you gave not very long ago that that told a wonderful story that so many of us can relate to. But you and your husband were at, I guess, a transportation conference. Yeah, you know exactly where I'm going. Why don't you tell that story? What happened to you when you and your husband showed up to register for this transportation conference? And he's a Duke employee as well, right?
Yes. So that is a conference that takes place every year. It's the largest transportation conference for utilities. And that was the first year I went to the conference. It was maybe a few months. So I had not been in the role that long. So it was my first conference. So my husband, who also works for Duke, is like, I'll go with you. This conference is a little unique because it has a lot of activities for spouses. So most people bring their spouses.
Sure.
So we went to register, and the lady was very confused because my husband was the only male spouse in the entire conference. So they didn't know what to do because all of the gifts and the activities were more for women. So his schedule was about shopping trips and things like that. So then we go to the equipment show, and because he works at Duke, he's like, I really want to go, and is it okay that I go to the equipment show too? So he's wearing a Duke shirt. I'm not. He is a Duke employee, so he's very interested in the equipment. So when we go to one of the booths, we're walking around, one of the companies that don't do business with Duke approached him and basically said, hey, what can we do to earn your business? And the people that run the conference were around. Everybody was mortified. They didn't know what to do. And my husband just laughed it off and said, you're going to have to talk to her. And the gentleman was, why do I need to talk to your wife? And he goes, because she is the general manager of the Duke Energy fleet. I am the spouse. So that was, but looking back at it, I could see why he got confused. Sure. He was wearing a Duke shirt. He was very interested in the equipment. So I saw it for what it was. It was just an honest mistake. But it also showed that even though we have made a lot of progress, we have
more to do.
To go.
Yeah, because the reality is the attendees in that room were not as diverse as you know what Duke has, the opportunities that Duke has provided you in terms of your career. So one day at a time, right? And it's people like you that are willing to say yes to these positions that hopefully we inspire others to join the industry. And so in that regard, let's talk about your substantive experience. What did you study in school? What were your degrees that took you to Duke Energy to begin with?
So I have a degree in finance. I am a CPA by trade. I took the CPA in Massachusetts, and I'm licensed in the state of Massachusetts. And then I have a master's in business administration. Most of my career prior to Duke was working with an accounting firm, like your Ernst & Young, Deloitte, basically doing a lot of engagements for different large companies. And then I also worked for GTE International. They are the predecessor to what is Verizon Communications today. And they had an international division because they own companies in Latin America. So I was an expat in Latin America for a few years in some of those operations. And then eventually I ended up getting a job with, at the time was Florida Power. Mm-hmm. It's the company. So I started in audits and finance and held a number of different roles, mainly on strategy and support. I also was a project manager for construction, and then eventually to the fleet services role and the one I have today.
Mariela, we have our second question from a viewer. The question is, you always hear that professionals shouldn't jump around too quickly within an organization. At what point do you know it's the right time to take another position?
That is a very good question, because in my case, most of the time I have not made the decision to go. It has been something that somebody had approached me, or I think maybe one or two times I made the decision. I think, and this is very personal, for me is when you get to the point that you feel that you have accomplished what you set out to do, when you get to the point that you can look back and see that the organization or the project or the work that has been trusted to you is in a better place
Right.
than when you got it. And I think it's when you get to the point that the organization will benefit from someone new with new ideas, and you would also benefit from the growth of doing something new. I had a number of positions in Duke Energy and the predecessor companies, but I don't see it so much as jumping around. I saw it more as, it was just the right time. In some cases, I was in the same job for 5 years, like in the case of fleet services, in other cases, 2 or 3 years. So I think in your heart when is the time to move forward. And I think the environment tells you that either because somebody approaches you or because it gets to the point that you go back and you look at what you intended to do and realize that you accomplished most of that.
It's very well said. It's a great response to that question. I've always thought that there's a balance between doing really well at the position you're in now, just doing your best, and people will notice that and notice your hard work, balanced with you also don't want to be complacent where if no one has noticed, you're not expressing an interest to excel, right? Or to change positions or to be advanced professionally. And you're right. You know it when you see it. You know when you're getting too complacent. You know when you're not being challenged enough. And so the ability to communicate that and express an interest in something that comes available is important as well.
I, th- I think also, especially when we think about creating opportunities, you don't want to be, especially when you're in a leadership position, you don't want to be that block, right? You want to be able to create opportunities so that others can advance, so that others can learn. And I look at my team in fleet services, they have an amazing new general manager that is going to bring new perspectives and ideas, and they're going to benefit from that. I've had the honor of working with them for 5 years, but I think they're going to benefit from their new leader, and I will benefit from starting over in a new position and learning new things.
So many people don't realize that's a very, very generous way of treating your own professional advancement. You leaving that position created an opportunity for someone else. And that's a very generous outlook. So let's talk about your new position. That's a really long title for all
Yes.
customer experience, right? So you have the honor, because I do know that your company prides itself on having the customer as its focus in everything that you do. So customer experience, what do you mean by that in this day and age?
So customer experience to me in this day and age is it's everything about the customer. The customer is front and center on everything that we do and every decision that we make and how we approach things. And I'm very proud to work for a company that has really taken that to the next level. So right now I work for the Senior Vice President of Customer Experience and Services, and that includes the distribution organization in all of the jurisdictions, the customer service, the call center operations, and all that customer service operations, including the revenue services and billing. And it also includes a group called Customer Experience Transformation, which is pretty much dedicated to set forth the customer strategy for the entire company. So it's an organization that is all about the customer, from the distribution work all the way to the call services and the call center and the back office to setting out the strategy for the entire company.
And Mariela, let's see, you started in that position. well into the COVID pandemic, right? So you came into that position with customers on a personal level, either working remotely or having experienced COVID or a loved one experiencing COVID. What challenges did that give you in starting your new position and the way you look at this position?
So this is a very strategic position. And probably the biggest challenge is when you start a new job, no matter what it is, whether it's an operational job like what Fleet Services was or a more strategic position, building the relationships with the team you're working with, it's so critical. And that is so difficult to do when you don't have the benefit of being able to see someone in person and to build those relationships. So I think for anybody that started a new job in the middle of this pandemic, it's just very difficult because, we do the best that we can with technologies like this, but it's not the same as being able to go out to lunch and
Right.
really establish that relationship. So I think that was probably a challenge for me, especially with those individuals that I didn't have a prior relationship with. In terms of what our customers, our employees, and all of us are going through, it was actually very rewarding to be part of it because the company really made they really stepped it up. They really showed their heart in terms of how we dealt with our customers and how we dealt with the employees. So even though it was a very challenging time, it was also a very rewarding time to be part of it.
Mariela, we have a question from a viewer. I'm assuming a student. Do you have internships available in your department?
So in my current department, I don't have a department. I work directly for the Senior Vice President of Customer Experience and Services. So I don't have a department myself, but we typically do have internship opportunities within the distribution groups.
Can they find that information on the website, Mariela? We have your website and we can make that available on the bottom of the screen. There it is.
Yes, I will have to confirm that, but I will get back to you with that specific information.
Sounds good. And we can post it on the Women in Energy Leadership Forum site as well. So you ready to get personal? We've touched on some personal stuff already, but are you ready to go a little bit deeper there?
Absolutely.
So let's see. You and I, when we were preparing for this, just a few minutes before we went live, I shared with you that I thought you were Hispanic, and you did spend some time, right, in Latin America, and I think you told me you were born in Puerto Rico. Is that right?
That is
territory.
correct.
But you have another ethnicity, and so you and I have something in common. We're both Arabic.
That is correct.
Wow. So tell me about that. Your parents are Arabic.
So my grandparents
Uh-huh.
are Arabic, and my mom was born in Puerto Rico. I was born in Puerto Rico, but my entire family from my mother's side, they're Arabic. They are Palestinian. And my family from my father's side, they're from Spain. So even though my parents were born in Puerto Rico and we were born in Puerto Rico, our family is really from Spanish and also Palestinian descent.
Small world, really. And so as I say all of that, Mariela, you're a what I would call a double minority, right? And when we try to do outreach to women and minorities to help them understand and fully appreciate that there are wonderful high wage jobs in the energy industry, does it help that you are, they're speaking to someone who might look like them, right? That if we want to attract minorities and women to the industry, we can tell that story personally and provide examples. Is that something that helps you?
It does. Another thing that helps me is having people, whether they look like you or not, that believe in you.
Right.
that see things in you that sometimes you don't see yourself. So when I think about my current opportunity and even other positions I've held in the past, it has been because somebody tapped me in the shoulder and said, would you consider this? Have you thought about taking this opportunity? And having somebody that believes in you, having somebody that you can go to when you have questions, it's really very critical. So I think it's a combination of walking to a room and seeing people that look like you. But it's also, even when that doesn't happen, when I walked into the fleet services room or the garages, nobody looked like me.
Right.
But I had people that believed in me, and they had people that supported me along the way. And that's very important. And I think as leaders, that's one of the most important things we can do, is make sure that we're there for others and make sure that we do what we can to support others.
You've had champions, and we've spoken about the importance of both mentors and champions and the difference, right? The champion will sing your praises and advocate on your behalf and think of you for opportunities, even when you're not in the room. And I agree with you. It's really critical, and I think it's also though important that we do that for others.
Yes, yeah, pay it forward. And I also think it's important that we are willing to take a risk and that we're willing to take a chance and that we're flexible. You know, when I was looking for an operations role, I wanted an operations role in distribution. The door that opened was the fleet services door. And you know what? It wasn't exactly the door I really thought I was going to go, but I wouldn't change it for the world.
Right.
And I think sometimes being flexible, not giving up on your dreams and your goals, but understanding that there's more than one way to get there.
Absolutely. What's next for Mariela?
So right now, really my focus is on my current job. I've only been in it for a few months. And really right now my focus is doing the best that I can, making a difference for that organization, which is such an important organization in Duke Energy because it works directly with the customer. So I would say, because right now I'm brand new in this position, really my goal is to make a positive difference in it. I've always felt that it's so important that it's great to have goals and to pursue what's next, but also to make sure that you're focusing on doing the best possible job and what you have in front of you. So right now that's really my immediate goal. In the future, I just want to continue to advance. I would love an opportunity going back to operations because that's my heart and I loved it, and parts of me miss it. But I also think that it's important that we have that flexibility and that we continue to expand our careers and our experiences. And I could not be even more excited about the opportunity and the job that I have now.
Mariela,
Even so different.
I think you can do anything you put your mind to. You are a strong leader and champion for the company. And I'm just so thrilled for you and your success. But I know where you're going to be October 27th through the 29th. You're going to be with us at the Florida's Women in
Absolutely.
Energy Forum in October. That was a shameless plug and lead in for the forum, October 27th through the 29th at the JW Marriott. Come join us and see Mariela and the great folks at Duke. You've become a title sponsor of the forum, so thank you for that. Thank you for spending time with us today, and thank you for your great
having
work.
me.
Appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Bye-bye.
Bye.